Where will quarterback Ryder Lyons end up and why?
Locked On presents The Portal, the daily podcast covering college football recruiting and everything NIL. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome into The Portal. I am your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst and writer. Today's show is going to be the start of a long-standing idea that I've had to do updates each and every day around noon, and that is going to begin today, and we're going to talk quarterbacks, beginning with Ryder Lyons, one of the top players in the country out of Folsom, California, and we're going to finish up talking about Ohio State, a little bit of LSU, and who can compete for the top overall class. A lot of recruiting predictions with quarterbacks, and again, we're going to start with Ryder Lyons right now. He is arguably the best player in the country. He's from Northern California. He's a kid that has visited numerous programs all along the coast and then all the way to the Midwest, down south. There's not much he hasn't seen, but he has been most often linked to Oregon and Southern California. Not real shocking for a kid that plays prep football out west. Well, here's the other part of that. Jonas Williams, who is ironically committed to the Ducks, is ironically predicted to end up with Southern Cal now. So the in-state school might go away. So you think, Ryder will probably go to Oregon. And he still could. But Oregon is making a push for Jared Curtis as well, the big-time talent out of Nashville Christian. You couldn't go wrong with either one. If Oregon gets either one of Ryder Lyons or Jared Curtis, they would be in a tremendous situation. But if it's not Oregon for Ryder, if Jared picks there or for whatever reason he doesn't end up signing with the Ducks, where would Ryder Lyons go? It's an interesting scenario because I just thought for the longest time it was going to be one of those two schools. I never really thought, to be honest with you, and I was wrong, that Jared Curtis would leave the South. Oregon's a possibility. That's been around for a while now that he's going to take that OV. They're pushing for him. Wilt Fong talked about it. There's been different people bring up the Ducks quite a bit, and they are one of the hottest teams in recruiting over the last year or so. So it wouldn't be shocking. It really wouldn't be shocking. Now, the other part of that is really interesting because if Southern Cal does get a kid from Chicago to flip, that just kind of shows you how non-regional it can be with quarterback recruiting. You would think, he would just try to get Ryder Lyons. Well, maybe Lincoln Riley just wants to get his guy in the boat a little sooner. Maybe Ryder Lyons is not ready to make a decision. Timing with quarterback recruiting is huge. We call it the dominoes. Once a major guy makes a decision like Faison Brandon from North Carolina is committed to Tennessee, it can sometimes speed up the timelines of other quarterbacks. It happened last year. It'll happen again this year. I'm really curious to see who pulls the trigger first. Is it Jared Curtis? Is it Ryder Lyons? Maybe somebody else will flip. Besides Jonas Williams, it's a really unique situation, and there's a lot of different guys that could change this dynamic. With that being stated, I also do want to give out a few predictions on a few quarterbacks, and this can change, but these are a few of the guys that I think we need to talk about. Keyshawn Henderson. I don't think he will end up flipping from Houston. I do think he will take OBs. I don't know which schools exactly yet. Florida State would really love to have him. He'd be a great fit in Malzahn's offense. Georgia, different teams in the SEC in general. LSU might be a program to watch for. There are several that Keyshawn could go to, and that's fine and dandy, but he really likes Houston, and they were the first one to buy into him playing quarterback. So watch out for him to stick with it in the long term, but I do expect him to take visits. Brady Smeagol has been talked about with Washington, but he's looking at other schools too. It would seem like the easiest thing for a kid from Southern California to end up going to UW. But again, in this world, you don't know. He was originally committed to Florida State. So I could see him going to a lot of schools. Don't just assume it's Washington, but that's the easiest pick. They do need a quarterback, and he would probably fit into their offense really well. The head coach there knows quarterback play. Landon Duckworth, I think, will end up at Florida State. He's a kid out of Mobile, really talented player. He's not given credit enough for his ability to throw the football. He's a freak athlete. I was actually watching some of his basketball videos yesterday, dunking on people. Tremendous football player, and he could play just about any sport. I don't care if it was soccer. I don't care if it was gymnastics. I don't care if it was baseball. He would find a way to be great. Florida State's offense would be a very good fit for Landon Duckworth. And finally, When you talk about quarterbacks, a kid that's kind of been forgotten about because he committed early, but other schools are still trying to get with him is Bell. From what I've heard, Texas is probably still going to be where he's at on signing day. Georgia and other programs have made overtures to him just in case they don't get Curtis. So we'll see how that goes. But I think that Bell will sign with the Texas Longhorns. We'll see there. And for the record, I still think Faison will stick with Tennessee, but do not count out UNC. When we come back, I'm going to talk a little bit about Ohio State, a little bit about LSU and their overall recruiting ability. Those could be the top 2 recruiting classes in the country. That is next here on The Portal. This message is from our sponsor, Intuit TurboTax. Taxes was dealing with piles of paperwork and frustrating forms, and then waiting and wondering and worrying if you were going to get any money back. Now Taxes is easily uploading your forms to a TurboTax expert who's matched to your unique tax situation, an expert who's backed by the latest technology, which cross-checks millions of data points for 100% accuracy. While they work on your taxes, you get real-time updates on their progress, and you get the most money back guaranteed, all while you go about your day. No stressing, no worrying, no waiting. Now this is Taxes. Intuit TurboTax. Get an expert now at TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live Full Service. Real-time updates only in iOS mobile app. See guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantees. Ohio State should have the top class at the end of this cycle. They're coming off the national championship. They still have very good coaches on the staff. It's an easy sell. It's always been one of the blue bloods in college football. And you're looking at a staff now that has a little more solidified stature. A certain wide receiver coach got bumped to the coordinator position. I think that'll help him stay for another year or two. I don't think that Brian Hartline's going to just take any given job. And I don't know what jobs are going to open. So I think he's going to beat Ohio State for a while. I could be wrong, but I think that will help them bring in some really good players. They've only got 4 guys committed right now. Chris Henry Jr. being one of them, arguably the best receiver in the country out of Mater Dei High School in LA. But they have a ton of really good players lined up for visits. And to that point, just want to name a few of them, Henry being one that they've got lined up. Braylon Womack out of the state of Mississippi, arguably the best safety in the South. They got Cam Brooks lined up, a kid that I know well from Thomas County Central in South Georgia. He is an elite player. That is a very good football player for them to get on campus. And it's getting a South Georgia kid like that. He lives 30 minutes, something like that, from Florida State. That's one to watch for Ohio State. Then Blaine Bradford, another kid that's a great safety. If it's not Womack, it's probably Bradford that's the best safety in the South. He's out of Baton Rouge. And then looking at the situation in terms of running backs, one of the fastest, most explosive kids in the country, Carson Baker out of Langston Hughes. These are just a few of the kids that they have lined up for visits, but they're doing their due diligence. They're not just making offers and doing anything stupid. I think Ryan Day and his staff are doing this the right way. Play the long game. It's something Saban used to do. It's something Kirby has done. It's not who you have committed now. It's who you get committed at the end that matters. I like how Ohio State is organizing their class and doing a really good job. To that point, I also like what LSU is doing so far. This is a team that Brian Kelly's done a really good job with keeping kids in state so far. That's important. You have to make sure that the best players stick in your state. In a state like the Bayou State, I mean, there probably isn't a more loyal group of kids in the country to the state U than kids in the state of Louisiana to LSU. They already have several commitments that are really good. And the best news for Brian Kelly is he didn't have to go far to get them. Every single one of these 6 are from M-State. The one kid that I want to highlight, and it's a good sign for them going forward, they got a big nose guard in Richard Anderson, probably a top 100 kid, but he can play that nose guard or one technique. If you're going to win big in the SEC, you need that kind of player. Keeping him home was huge for them. He's out of Edna Carr, which also helps. That's a program that LSU has to recruit with success. That's a really good start for LSU. I think those 2 schools are really good bets to conservatively finish top 3. And again, I think at the end of the year, Ohio State will have the top class in the country. LSU might be able to catch them if they keep recruiting in-state like this and can pick off a few kids towards the end. And part of that will depend on how LSU does during this season. Kids want to see you win. LSU's talked about, and Brian Kelly's talked about competing for the title this year. If LSU has a great season, the Tigers have a chance to not only win on the field, but in recruiting as well. This has been today's recruiting update here on the portal. Thank you very much. I appreciate you stopping in. We're going to do this each and every day around noon. Make sure you come back and see us again. Find us on Apple, Spotify, and if you want to find us on YouTube, type in LO-the-portal, and you'll find us that way. It's a new channel, so it's a little harder to find on YouTube, but that's how you can get it. Come back and see us again. Subscribe and like. I will see you again soon.